All right, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and start taking our notes on solving equations with rational coefficients. So if you'll notice, number one, we have 16 equals 0.25n. So what exactly is a coefficient? A coefficient is a number or a constant that is next to a variable. So for example, 5x, my 5 is my coefficient. If I have 4p, my coefficient is 4. So it's basically the number that's right next to the variable. So if we notice on number one, 0.25 is my coefficient, so I need to get rid of 0.25 in order to have n isolated. So the way I'm going to do that, again, remember there's an imaginary multiplication symbol in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 0.25. Okay, so this is the same setup as we have been solving these equations, except now you'll notice that there are decimals involved. So that cancels out. And so now I have n equals 16 divided by 0.25. In this case, we're going to have to go with in and out. Okay, so here is my n for 16, 0.25. All right, so for in and out, remember, if there's a decimal involved, we have to make sure that we move it as many times as we need to make sure that it becomes a whole number. So now we move that twice. So in this case, I'm going to move this twice as well, making those zeros. And my decimal point can shoot straight up, which would be right over here. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do some trial and error. Trial and error means that I'm not exactly sure what number is going to work for me, so I'm going to have to try some out and see what I come up with. So 25 does not go into 1. It does not go into 16. So now I need to figure out 25 goes into 160 how many times. So I'm going to go ahead and try out, let's try out 7. Again, I don't know if I'm right. We're just trying it out. So 5 times 7 is 35. 3, 7 times 2 is 14, plus 3 is 17. Now we'll notice 175 is too high. So I'm going to try 6. Okay, so you are going to have to work out different numbers in order for you to try to figure out which one works best. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So that one works better. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 6, and that is equal to 150. I'm going to subtract, that's 10. So at this point, I can go ahead and bring my 0 down. Okay, so now I have 25 into 100. And we know that if I think about quarters, I can get 4 quarters. That'll equal $1. And now we are done. So on this one, n is equal to 64. Okay. All right, so that is number one. Again, it is going to take some work to try to figure out which is the correct number that would match your problem. So let's look at number 2. 2.4 is my coefficient. N is my variable, equals 30. I'm going to divide both sides by 2.4. This side would cancel out, which is exactly what I need. I need n to be by itself. And now at this point, I just need to do an in and out strategy so I can figure out what's my answer. So in and out. Okay. So here is my division problem set up. I got 30 in the inside, and I have 2.4 on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and move my decimal over 1 time. So there you go. That's 1. Here's my decimal here. I'm moving it over 1 time. So that becomes 300. So now I have 24 into 300. So I'm just going to rewrite that over here so I can kind of see it nice and clear, okay, without any of the little loops around. So 24 does not go into 3. It does go into 30 1 time. So that's going to be 24. I'm going to subtract, bring down my 0, and that gives me 60. So 24 into 60, I'm going to go with 2 times on that one. That's going to give me 48. I subtract that, and that gives me 12. My decimal is right here, right? So 24 does not go into 12, so I'm going to go ahead and add a 0 and bring it straight down, okay? So that is 120, okay? So I have 120 now. 24 goes into 120. That's the next thing I have to figure out. So let's try 6. Let's see what happens with 6. 24 times 6, that's 24. Carry my 2, 6, 12, 14. That's going to be too high. So I think 5 would work then. So 24 times 5 is It's 20, carry my 2. 5 times 2 is 10, and that's 120. So that actually comes out perfect to what I need, and I am done. So the answer on this one is going to be n is equal to 12.5. So again, I didn't know which number would work. You have to try out different numbers to figure out which one is going to be the best one for you. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 4. I have negative 1.3g. That's my coefficient, is a negative 1.3. Plus 1.9 is equal to negative 11.1. So this one is a little bit different. This one actually has an extra step that we're going to have to work through. So we're still going to follow our same strategies. I'm going to box my coefficient with my variable. So now I need to try to get rid of that, that positive 1.9. So I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite, right? So the opposite would be a negative 1.9, a negative 1.9. So again, what you do on one side of the fence, you do on the other. This would actually cancel out. All right, now I want you to notice on this side, this is a negative, so this is a negative. So we're going to go ahead and combine those together. All right, so we're not going to subtract. We're actually going to combine them together because they are both the same symbol, right? So that's going to be 9 plus 1 is 10. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'm going to bring down the 1. So this is going to be 13.0, so just 13 in other words, and we're going to keep it as a negative because they're both good guys. Both bad guys. So we're going to keep the negative symbol. So now I have negative 1.3g is equal to 13. All right, so now I can continue with my next step. I'm going to divide. Now watch, notice it was a negative 1.3. So that's why I'm dividing by the same exact thing. I am dividing by negative 1.3. This cancels out. So now I have negative 13.0 is my in, and this is my out. All right, so let's go ahead and set that up. So I have a negative 13. And then I have a negative 1.3. Okay, they're both negative. So when I'm dividing two negatives, I'm going to end up with a positive, right? So let's take a look at what happens here. I got to move this over one time. So since I moved that over one time, I'm going to go ahead and move this over one time and add my 0 to that problem. Okay, 13 goes into 13 one time. So that would be 1. Subtract, and I'm going to bring down my 0. 13 does not go into, 13 cannot go into 0, so I'm going to put a 0 there. So that would be 0. So that decimals is going to go straight up, so that is 10. So 10 is going to be my final answer for G. So G is equal to 10. All right. So that is that one. And the last one that we're going to work on is number 6. I'm going to go ahead and follow my strategies. I'm going to box the k over 5. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 7.4 by subtracting 7.4. Okay. So this would cancel out. I have k over 5 equals, now I have 8 minus 7.40, right? So these two are both different symbols, so I will subtract. I'm going to go ahead and make this an 8.0 just so that I could subtract a little easier. This will become a 10. This will become a 7. So I have 0.6 left. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring it a little lower here. So this is my new equation. K over 5 equals 0.6. So I'm going to continue with my strategies again. I know that if this is a division, I'm going to have to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 in order to cancel out. That cancels out. K is equal to 0.6 times 5. That's going to be 30. And I notice that I have one decimal place, so I'm going to move it over one time. So then, finally, K is equal to 3 as my final answer. All right. So again, all we did was multiply 6 times 5. There's one decimal place. So I moved it over, and that's how I ended up with 3.0, which in essence just means 3. All right, good job, guys. So don't forget our strategies. It's the same format, the same process, except now you're dealing with some decimals. All right, here we go. Let me go ahead and stop.